Hari Om. Hari Om. I have to breathe a bit. I just run up the stairs. So the recording is on this time. Is there anybody who dares to come in straight away? Please come in. Hello. You didn't come in intentionally. Okay, anybody who would like to talk, please come in. Angelica, would you like to talk? You have to unmute your microphone. You have to go to the corner. Ah, there.
Okay.
Now I can
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, namaste.
Namaste.
I'm happy to join you today. Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Did you want to talk about something?
It's my first time now with you, so
you don't have to.
I guess. Yeah.
So I thought you want to come in for talking. So what I'm telling everybody, please turn your microphone off and also your camera off, because we are taking too much information if everybody has the camera on. And only when somebody wants to speak, then turn the microphone on and the camera on.
Okay, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
You are welcome.
Yes. Let me see.
It's both. Ah, yes. You got it.
Hello, Namah Shivaya.
Hello, Shridev. Hari
I
Om.
have a question. Hari Om. I have a question about relationship.
Yes, relationship.
And self-realization. Related to self-realization. So, a part of me wants to escape relationship because it's very challenging. It creates so much identification to me person, as a person. But another part of me I still a strong desire for intimacy.
Yeah.
And I see with a good attitude, it can help me to see what is not true in me. So my question is, how can a relationship not be personal?
Not be personal.
Yes.
Yeah. How can a relationship not be personal? No, a relationship is personal, but you can be unattached. I mean, if you want an impersonal relationship, it's your relationship with the cosmic being. With the cosmic being, with God. Right. But there's, I mean, you wonder whether a relationship is helpful, whether it's disturbing, whether you should or should not have a relationship.
I would like to know what is the right attitude and the right balance to have.
I mean, relationship is every time new and unique, but basically, be aware that your happiness comes out of yourself, that you are responsible, whether you are happy or whether you are unhappy. Don't make a partner responsible. Don't make the parents responsible. Don't make the whole world or the universe responsible, or God. We are the source of our own happiness, and you are complete in yourself. You don't need a relationship to be complete. Now, on the relative level, if it so happens that you meet somebody and you feel drawn to each other and you decide to go the way together, then it can be very supportive and very inspiring. It's simply when we start to expect that my happiness must come from somewhere, must come from a relationship, that I can feel complete only in a relationship, then already we are opening up to being in trouble, because it's not always going to be the way we like it. Two minds, different minds. Sometimes it goes harmoniously and sometimes it clashes. So it goes. And then if we first, when we are not well, when we react, when we think, oh, why is it happening like this? Why is she doing like that? Why is he doing like that? Then if we catch that and first turn back to ourselves and see, hey, what am I doing to myself? Why am I reacting so strong? And my real misgiving, my feeling of not being okay comes out of myself because I'm resisting to the fact of the situation. As long as you are clear about that, you can have a relationship or you cannot, or not. Then it's not so important whether you are in a relationship or not. So it's not that it's important that you are celibate and you are alone and you are not in a relationship in order to get self-realization. But it's also not the contrary. It's not that you need a relationship. It's not that you need somebody very close. If it so happens, if it's somehow right in the current of your life, then accept it. And when there are the reactions that are bound to come in a relationship, try to remember, instead of putting the finger and accusing and saying you are wrong, and this is not good, first have a good look at yourself and see, what am I doing to myself? And then a relationship can be very helpful to become more aware how our mind is working, how our mind is creating obstacles, how we are reacting much more in certain ways that we think actually that we are doing. And in that sense, if that openness, if that clarity is there, then a relationship can be a good mirror to always become aware, there is something I have to work on myself first, and not first on my partner. It's actually, it's not different like any other life situation. We're having a relationship with the whole rest of the creation. And if the tendency is there that whenever we don't feel well, we always make everything responsible except ourselves. We make the whole world and all the other people and our friends and whoever, or our past, our parents, our bringing up, if we make always everything else responsible, we never have an honest, clear look at the functioning of our mind. And we don't become aware that actually we are creating the obstacles to just be naturally at ease, at peace. And so a relationship gives us a lot of opportunity to become aware of that. If you are not getting lost in all the little details, in all the little things that come automatically. I mean, essentially we are all the same, but the minds are functioning quite differently. And as soon as there are two people involved, there will be situations where it's not going so easy. It's just the way it is. There's no point in hoping for something else. I mean, we can be closer mentally and relatively harmoniously going about, but from day-to-day living, there will always be the little situations, and the relationship, if you are alert enough, can really be a wonderful point to look, but at yourself. Look here, how I'm reacting. Look what I'm doing again. Look how I'm holding on to an old pattern, and in that way creating an obstacles to be myself, the true self, to be natural. So if you feel that this is necessary, then don't mind the relationship, but don't make it dependent that you have a relationship, that you can be happy, at ease, at peace. Well, are you in a relationship?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then make the best out of it.
She's laughing.
She's laughing.
Yes. Okay.
The tendency is always that in a relationship we first blame the partner when something goes hard, when something is not easy, instead of having a good look at ourselves and see, oh, I'm doing it again to myself. And then when we make peace with ourselves and harmony in ourselves, then most of the time we feel it's not necessary to point out anything to somebody else. And if then still we think, okay, this is necessary that I'm pointing it out, then we still can point it out. But it's good to first, what am I doing? See what we are doing to ourselves and deal with that first. It's certainly a situation from where we can get a lot of joy, but it's also a situation where we have a lot of confrontation, more than when you live all by yourself, because it's normal. As soon as there are two people in the same space, then you have to learn to somehow be together and still be in harmony.
But when I'm single, I feel that I start to sleep in kind of comfortable situation, and
Sorry,
I don't evaluate anymore. Yes?
you were breaking up. I didn't really hear properly what you were saying.
Okay. So if I am single, I see also that it's a very comfortable situation, and I start to feel asleep. So yes, this confrontation is good, but it's difficult to stay in a balanced way.
Well, of course, we will always have the moments where we forget. And maybe we just have a fit of anger, and it goes out. But after that, once the moment is over, you cool down. Then the first thing is not to hold on to that idea. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. But hey, I mean, I've lost it. And have a good look at yourself. And if it's necessary, then we can also apologize and say, oh, I lost it. So please don't take it so serious. Instead of insisting that my action is right, your action is wrong, but first have a good look. And most of the time we find, okay, even if the partner is making mistake, even if the partner is having unfortunate reactions, but first I'm reacting myself totally out of proportion. And there it's where we can work on. So you said it's very difficult to keep that balance, right? But you have to have at least the basic attitude that that's how it goes. And then you will catch yourself again and again and again that, got me, I reacted much too quick instead of having a good look on myself. But then you become aware of it, and there you can work on it. That's what life is for. having situations, having confrontations, and learning from them, learning and growing and outgrowing.
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Werner.
Wish you well.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to talk? Please come in.
Hi, Werner, it's Udi.
Hello, Woody.
Maybe I will continue with what you've talked about now and ask it differently about the option of the stability of the mind. To my feeling, I'm living in two different time zone. The one I will call it the India time zone, where is the time that I have opportunity to sit down and meditate or to be with myself. And the other one is my local time, which is life.
Yes.
And there is a gap. There is a gap. You have said that those differences are a tool in order to learn to find yourself in the right way, the right place.
Right. Now, the question is how to deal with the difference of these two time zones, as you call them.
Yeah, the fluctuation is so big.
So you mean what you call your Indian time is not only when you are in India, but when you are at home alone and you have time to sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's you call your Indian time.
Yeah.
Right. And how to integrate when you are busy and when you are not busy, when you have time to put your undivided attention to be consciously conscious, or when you have to put your attention in all the things that are happening around, especially in your profession as a doctor, then your mind has to be very much there, involved. You cannot somehow let your mind drift off too much. It's wonderful that you have the time that you can step out, that you have the time where you're by yourself. But then when you step out of that time and go back to the busy time, go back with the attitude that you want to keep that touch as good as you can, even when you're active. And it helps that once in a while in your activity, when it's just possible, you just stop a moment. For a moment, you stop, just breathe, and you just relax. And you gain that contact again in that moment. And then you go into the activity. You may consciously lose it, but if you do it once in a while, then it's not so far. It's actually always there. But the awareness is not always there. Do that once in a while, and then you become aware that slowly, slowly, the two don't look anymore so enormously different. It's just a different aspect of your life, a different aspect how yourself is manifesting. In one time, you can just relax You can just be centered. You can be consciously conscious here now and be in it in the other. You are active, and yet there is in that active part always that aspect which is not affected, which is there in your Indian time and in your Israel time, which is there. You become more aware of that when you are inactive, when you can meditate, when you can just be by yourself, and you lose a bit that awareness. You lose more that awareness when you are active, but it's still there. So try to make little gaps in your active period that you remind yourself, okay, stop a moment. Just stop a moment, breathe a few times, relax. And then in a moment you can become aware, oh, it's still there. Actually, what I thought is gone because I'm active is still there. Simply I was not aware of it. And so gradually you can gain that awareness of it more and more, even when you are active. That you learn in the midst of activity to relax. Actually, for me, this is has been the most helpful aid that I just reminded myself, no matter how tense the situation was, relax. And if I relax immediately, the perspective changes. And relaxing combined together with conscious breathing is even more powerful. So we think they are so different. There is such a big gap, but it's the mind that creates that idea of the big gap. But that which makes the experience possible is the same whether you are in your resting, in your Indian time, or in your active, in your Israel time. It's great to have, if you can, to have every day some time, little time where you're by yourself. It's like it creates a current that is there, even if you are not aware of it. And the more that current is there in your life, the easier it becomes in active situation just to relax and you touch it right away again.
I have the feeling that I see and I know the qualities of my Indian time.
Mm.
And during my activity, whatever it is, when I see the difference is if I'm losing it, what it brings out is frustration, sometimes for me.
Right, of course, we are often frustrated with ourselves because we think we shouldn't lose it, and then we lose it, and then we feel frustrated. But don't waste your time blaming yourself. I mean, it is not so very long that you consciously make an effort to be more conscious. And for a long time you have been functioning in a certain way, and over the years the habits of functioning in that certain way, they have strengthened, they have sort of crystallized. And now, even if you have basically changed your attitude, the old habits are still there. And when you are in your usual environment, the pull is there from the habitual environment, that it pulls you in your habitual ways of feeling, thinking, and reacting. But then when you see it, instead of letting go yourself too much, go into frustration and feeling bad about yourself, then you just accept, oh, it got me again. But at that moment, instead of wasting your energy being frustrated at yourself, At that moment, you bring your attention back home to that timelessness of the now and relax. And if you do that consequently every time, you remember. As long as we don't remember, nothing can be done. But the moment you remember, even if it's not a frustrating situation, even if you don't feel that you have a straight, but if you remember, then just bring the attention back to the center, to that timelessness of the present, and relax in that as good as you can. And even if you stay only a few moments, these moments are very precious. And if we do that again and again, gradually it builds up its own momentum, it builds up its own power, until that power is stronger than the power of the old habitual way of functioning. We don't get around that work. We can get directions, we can get support, but no God or no guru is going to do that job for us. This is the game of this world. That's what we came for. In course of the process, something very precious is happening. So it's worth the trouble. And sometimes, of course, that it may come that we feel frustrated and think, oh my God, and it's still happening, and in spite of my better efforts. But then let that feeling go and come back as playfully as you can. Okay, got me, but now I'm here. Not wasting time. What do I do wrong? What should I do different? Why is it still happening? I'm not good. And then the more you do that, if you do that consequently, when it comes to your attention, that you consciously connect, relax and connect, then it's gradually getting easier. Still, there will be period where you feel, oh, it's going quite nicely. I'm really making step. I'm getting somewhere. And then maybe again a period where it seems to be so difficult and it feels like I'm going backwards. But it's not true. We are never really going backwards. But sometimes the circumstances are more difficult. It can be the physical circumstances. It can be also subtle influences that come in our life. It can be from the cosmic influences. It can just be from the subconscious stuff is coming to the surface and we have to work it out, and it's becoming more difficult again to be centered and at ease. We can have just periods where it's not so easy, and then it's good not to think I'm doing something wrong, but just persevere. Remind yourself to connect and relax, and then that also will pass again, and it will become easier again, and we become aware, after all, I covered some ground. And that feeling gradually will go, that there is such a big gap. The more we get caught up in the role and identify with the role that we are playing in the world, with our work, with our role as a husband, with our role as a father, with our role, whatever, a doctor towards the patients, the more we identify with it, the bigger seems the gap. But the more we become aware, okay, this is not really what I am. This is just an expression of myself. This is a role that I'm playing in the theater of this world. And I don't have to be so identified with. I just can play my role playfully. The more that attitude is developing, the less you will feel that there is such a big gap.
Well, it's very helpful, and I would say it's like understanding that we can sing in a duet, and understanding that it's the same singer.
Yeah.
Even my other voices can remain connected to my center.
Right. Everything. always is connected. Simply in our attention, in our mind, we creating this separation, and we creating that feeling that me, I'm separate from the whole rest, and there the trouble starts. But actually, in reality, we are never really disconnected. Simply, we feel like that. Our attention feels, is getting caught up, and then it feels like that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Wish you well.
Hello.
Hello, Vivian.
Hello, Werner. I have a question. It's not so easy for me to talk about it. I feel scared and ashamed to talk about it. Because I've experienced abuse in my childhood, mainly emotional and
Yes.
psychological abuse, and then it repeated when I met my first spiritual teacher.
Yes.
And he would also abuse me, mainly on a psychological level.
Yeah.
And now with these times, a lot of things are coming up, which I consider to be a good thing. And it's mainly that I start to be aware of the guilt that I'm carrying, which is actually, I feel that I'm silently kind of covering what my parents and my spiritual teacher actually caused. So I feel that if I would talk about it, I would actually hurt them, and I kind of carrying that whole dynamic. And somehow I don't really know how to best deal with it, because I know that it is all I created it, it's my reality, and maybe I also there sometimes maybe take over kind of a guilt that I know that it has to come from somewhere, because I understand the mechanism from an absolute point of view.
Right.
And I don't know though if I should, because what makes it so difficult, because it's not a mainly, like there was also physical abuse, but I don't really have scars, or it's very difficult to kind of hold it and localize it, because it's emotional wounds.
Yes.
And I don't know how important it is for my own healing to talk about it with those people, or if it's a work that I have to do with myself, like if it's an inner work only, because the inside is the outside.
It can be helpful talking to them, but only if you feel that they are open to it. And if you feel that if you start to talk about it, all they're making is a big barrier and getting angry and you're not getting deeper, then you better learn to resolve it by yourself. Because ultimately, that's what has to happen. You have to somehow come into terms with it, what happened. And actually, what we most of the time don't know, the most difficult thing that we are carrying along without most of the time not even being aware that we are doing so, that we feel very guilty or stupid, accusing, having a resentment against ourselves. How could I let that happen? How could I have been so stupid?
Yeah.
And first we have to deal with that. That is the most strongest obstacle that we can get rid of old stuff. If we once accept, okay, at that time I simply didn't know better in the situation, from my upbringing, from my conditioning, from how my consciousness worked, that's how I reacted. There is no point in carrying on a bad feeling about myself that things happened the way. And once you can forgive yourself that things happen the way they happen, after that it becomes much easier to deal also with the feelings that you have, with the pent-up anger that may be there towards the parents, towards your teacher, towards anybody who has contributed on the way. But whenever you feel that somebody who was involved could be open to it, then it may be helpful to talk about it. But it's different. Some people are not open to such thing at all, and if we try to talk to them, then it's just getting worse.
Yes.
Or sometimes people are open, and then talking can be helpful, but even then it's better just to present the situation, not come in a accusing mood and say, look, you did that to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Right.
I feel what is important for me is to actually honestly stand to my feelings and accept myself the way that I am now. And if I'm having, like, I do have a lot of fears involved and then panics, and so that I can honestly talk with people about how I really feel, and not silently try to solve everything on my own, and with not standing to myself, kind of covering what other people did. And I'm not even so angry, but I think maybe I just have to see on my own the pain, as you said, that I know that it wasn't right, that it didn't, I'm not guilty of it myself, that this happened to me. But it's just so difficult because in our society, no one even talks about those things. And the yoga community I left, my friends, they didn't want to know it. It's like, oh, this is between you and the teacher. Like no one would ever kind of confirm or talk about it, or would kind of openly say it. That's why I have this strong feeling of, really, it gives me a lot of strength to say this is something which is wrong. And I have forgiven my yoga teacher on a lot of levels. I did a lot of dream work, but there is this feeling of that I am still carrying. I'm still carrying what he has done, with not openly. I've never told him what he caused. Every spiritual teacher I met so far, I'm scared to death. I really, like with you, it's the first time I wasn't scared that you would ever cross a boundary or a line, but so far it was a huge thing that
It's also easier when we are online, huh? Not to cross the boundary.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you feel that it would be helpful, you can contact your teacher, your first teacher, from where you feel that a lot of stuff is still hanging there. And you can ask him whether he would be ready, that you could talk together about it. And then you see how the response is. And if you see it's hopeless, then drop it.
Yeah.
And if there is a chance that something concrete, constructive can come out of it, then maybe you go and see him. Or you see each other online.
Yeah.
Right. But it's, how you asked how important is it? The important thing is that you come clear with yourself, that you make peace with yourself about it, that you neither hold on to anger, neither hold on to self-pity, that, oh, it's terrible that this has happened. It's the past, and we give it a false reality by still energetically being locked into it. And somehow we have to learn to undo that, and ultimately we have to undo it ourselves. But it can be helpful to confront people who were involved, but if it's not possible, we can also do it ourselves.
Yes. Okay.
If you feel like we can maybe talk online. privately on WhatsApp or something. If you feel like we can contact about that. Or you can think
Thank
about
you so much.
You can think about
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hario.
Thank
Hario.
Hariom.
Anybody else who would like to talk? Please come in.
Yes.
Now we
yes.
are here. What's your name? Angelika.
Angelika.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a question. It's much related actually to what we talked about before, not to relationship, but our relationship now in the lockdown to the ashram.
Mm-hmm.
I realized the last months it was harder for me to accept it. And I know we have the situation. We are locked down. The ashram is not open. And I guess in my case, because I was engaged for seva and, I felt like an ashramite. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to accept it and to kind of re-establish. It was a good opportunity to do my own sadhana at home.
Right.
And somehow I almost felt in the beginning it freed me in a way, to be free of this role, which I played maybe. I was happy with the role. Yeah. And I missed it, of course. But I kind of, I'm struggling with this, And of course, I didn't ask for any special permission because I felt, no, it should be equal. I had that demand. Everybody should have access. But then when I hear, maybe others also in the community, when they hear people get special permissions, we struggle with that in a way. Maybe we should be happy for the people to get in. So I really miss going to the samadhi to have my daily life in the ashram, and it just comes back.
Right. And now you are not clear whether you should or should not ask for special permission.
Well, I actually tried, but I did it online, an email, because it didn't happen to do that over the phone. And because I heard, they did. And then they pointed out, well, we should do our sadhana at home. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now with Navaratri, of course, that comes in.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it tells me, maybe I came too strong across, like asking, I want to be back. So it should be not, how should I say, not with expectations.
Right.
My question. It should just come out genuine. And maybe I still have to be by myself and do my own sadhana. It's whatever Bhagwan wants. I don't know. But I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea to be a bit locked away by oneself, but somehow as the situation has developed like that, and obviously you still wanted to stay here by yourself and not be repatriated, going back to no. So,
wherever we go. No.
Right. So it's good to basically just accept, okay, for the time being, that's just how it is. And even if that longing comes, but I would like to go and it would be so nice to go, then instead of building that up, instead of thinking it over and over and the feeling gets bigger, then you accept, you see it, you accept that feeling is there, and turn the attention around, just watch what is it doing to you right now. How is it affecting your experience right now? So start on the easiest level, physical. What is it doing to my body? What is it doing to me energetically? And then you'll start to relax. And the more you do that, the more you become aware. Actually, ultimately, it doesn't really matter whether I go to the ashram or not to the ashram.
Yeah.
And when
Yes.
it's easy possible, then I go again. And if it's not possible, so what I'm looking for in the ashram is in myself. What I'm looking for anywhere
Yeah.
in order to make us more happy is in our own self. That source is here.
Yes. Yeah,
And
it's
since the circumstances has sort of forced us to be more like this, then it's better not to struggle against it and accept it. And then eventually, eventually it will open up again, and then you can also do as you feel like.
yes. No, it's an opportunity, as you say, to observe myself, to gain more awareness and
Yes.
not be caught up in the doership. Yeah,
Right,
because
right.
when you get caught up in the doership, it's hard to step out. So maybe that has been necessary for me. Yes, thank you. It's always good to remember. I was at this stage, but then with certain occasions, I just fell into the hole again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
then once we are there, it's so easy to turn around, and make it bigger. So
Yeah.
not necessary to go there.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Wish you well. Hari Om, Hari Om.
How are you? Thank you. Oh, where is it?
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Please come.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Klaus.
I have observed that it's like this feeling of, or just after a setback, you know, it's like the mind kicks in and says you have to take responsibility for your life and to build something that so you're secure that you will come into a position where you are okay again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm aware of this, and I'm aware that it's going on, and I can live with it. I can just let it be like that. But my question is really, after enlightenment or after seeing this, is this still the mind going on like that, or is it just shutting off these thoughts, or what is really going on before and after? Is there a change in the experience of these things?
Are you asking you this question to figure out whether it's worth the trouble to make all these efforts to get there?
I think I'm just asking what's really going on.
Right. What is going on after that mythic enlightenment?
Yeah.
You know, enlightenment is really a myth. You go towards that freedom of the mind, and suddenly you may make a step, and at a certain point you may really rotate into a totally new space, in a new perspective, and you will see that from there, whatever appeared to be so difficult before starts to become very easy. But the old habits will still be there to some degree, but be easily dealt with. And then they gradually disappear. But from there, you may still continue making that little effort of bringing the attention more intensely to the timelessness of the present. And then it may happen years later or a lifetime later that again you rotate into a new space, in a new perspective. And actually there's no end to it. So where do you want to put the label enlightenment? I'm not liking that word anymore because it's become such a cheap commodity on the market that one can easily somehow acquire by going to a few Advaita satsangs and then go out enlightened. But anyhow, it's worth the trouble to not get into the usual mechanism that when we see that we have been overwhelmed, that there has been a setback, that for some time it seemed it's going so quite and nicely and easy now, and then boom, it comes again. Then accept, okay, so it's a new piece of work and it's worth the trouble. Because once you detach from that level, then the whole becomes play. The way we have been brought up, mental habits still are there to a certain degree, but they lose their power. They are easily dealt with. So it's more a play than a job after that. First, it seems to be heavy work, the coal mine, to really heavy work. And then during the sadhana, it may also sometimes start to feel easier and easier, but still rather quite a job. And then you may find yourself in a new space, and whatever was such a job is play. And you just joyously continue playing that play, whatever is necessary, to let the experience of that mystery of existence to unfold further in whatever direction your personal story is pointing. Actually, the stories will be very different from one to another. But the fact that what is difficult, those mental habits that have the tendency to pull us in that black hole, which we mentioned before, where we drop then and oh, it's impossible, and self-pity, and why is it happening to me, and I'm never getting out of it, and all this stuff. These mental habits, they lose their power, and then they are easily to deal with, and after some time they practically disappear, even if a slight trace remains. As long as this body remains, a slight trace of it remains. Totally manageable.
Yeah, because I had like setbacks in my life now this week, because I went to the doctor. I had a heart surgery 3 years ago, and now they say that the leakage from the valve is getting bigger, so there have to be an operation in the future again. And also I had some trouble with dizziness, and I went to the doctor yesterday, and he wasn't sure if he was going to send me to the hospital and or stuff like that. But still I feel like it's I think after going on this path, you know, these things are also getting less serious. You know, it's happening, but it doesn't matter in the same way as it did before. But still I feel like, on the contrary, the mind is coming in and just, okay, you have to readjust your goals and how the life should be like. Okay, it's like this, you accept this, but still there is this dream about achieving something special in this life, about a beautiful house or a family or a job where you're really enjoying yourself, and this dream about a happy life, you know, a life which is good. And it's really hard to let go of that dream, you know.
Right, but when that dream comes up, you know enough that you know that the big house and the so-called good life is not really a source of happiness. Look how many unhappy people live in big houses with big cars and all the riches they can have accumulated. They have more riches than they can spend.
Yeah.
You are the source of your happiness. Be aware of that and then live your life. And if it has to happen, then live the play of having a big house eventually, maybe. But if it's not happening, then it's not a reason to be downcast because of that. Because it's not the external situation that really brings the fulfillment. You know enough to know it is true. And even if the mind comes up again and tries to convince you, but
Yeah.
I want this, I want that, then there's nothing wrong if you make reasonable efforts that your wishes can be fulfilled. Always with the awareness, but ultimately it doesn't matter whether they are fulfilled or not, because
Yeah.
it's not those things that are bringing that sense of fulfillment, that sense of peace and completion that we are longing for. We can find that only in ourselves.
Yeah.
However much the mind time and again tries to convince us of the contrary, that the old thoughts, but it would be so much nicer if it was like this and if it was like that.
Yeah.
And even if we achieve it for a moment, then it feels like that. Ah, how wonderful. But that moment doesn't hold so very long, because it's mainly also just if we struggle and fulfill a long-haul desires, then what is happening when the desire is fulfilled, that for some time we just let go. Struggle is over. And in that letting go, that beauty, that joyousness that is there waiting inside has a chance to come to the surface, which actually is often prevented by the struggle of gaining something, because we create such a tension, and then when we achieve it for some time at least, we let go of the tension, and then we feel so happy. But the happiness actually is not so directly related to all that we achieved, but because of that achievement, at least for some time, we just let it go. Irmgard and Cor, please turn your microphone off. You're interfering. Klaus, say something, then you come back to the image.
Yeah. I'm here.
Yeah. Hello. See you again, big.
Yeah, it's very good to get this reminder of the silence and where the source of happiness is, and it's already here. So it's just very good to be pointed back, and to be reminded of the truth again. So I'm really grateful for your grace and for your love and lightness. So thank you.
You're most welcome. After all, it's nothing new that I told you. Sometimes it's good to hear it again. And as I said, you need not now desperately try to push any wishes that are there away. Just don't take them so damn serious.
Yeah.
And then they may manifest or they may not manifest. And if you have that openness, then they are not harmful. Only when we make our well-being dependent on fulfilling these things, then they become a source of trouble.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, Klaus, wish you well.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Please come.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Lutz. You seem to be outside.
Yes, it's beautiful sunlight here, and I'm taking a sun bath.
Very good. Nice. Blue sky behind you.
Yeah, I want to ask something about having two teachers or two gurus or something like that. My own situation is that I have been, I mean, I'm explaining a little bit for other people as well, just briefly. I mean, you know my story.
Yes.
But now to make the point clear, I will briefly say, I had a good fortune to meet Amma in the early days, and I fell in love with her, and I had some deep inner experiences, which I consider one of the most important spiritual experience I had in my life. They came somehow through her or with her grace or in her presence. But I always had a great fear of her. I always felt that she will kind of destroy me. And I was uneasy about it. I felt that she will kind of turn my life completely upside down if I open up myself and really surrender and be a kind of a good devotee or an aspirant or yeah. And I also kind of, I wanted to enjoy creating my own life rather than just being or just is maybe the wrong word, but being guided by her or being a servant of her. I wanted to create my own thing. I wanted to enjoy my life in a way rather than surrendering it to her and working only for her and something like that.
Yeah.
But after some time, I felt that some deeper. So I broke away from her basically, and but after some time, I realized that I am not capable to pull myself out of the swamp, so to say. That means I have not enough insight or kind of clarity in me to connect with God or with the self, and not get lost in the kind of normal life experience. So I searched out some other teachers I could maybe be more harmonious with. So I found some teacher, and in the beginning it was very good. It gave me what I needed. It gave me some more grounded approach, and I felt better in my body. I didn't felt so much spaced out. Amma always made me very much spaced out. I was she completely, I mean in a way like some mixture of somebody who fall in love with somebody and also is on a drug trip. So I somehow I couldn't deal with that kind of intense kind of relation I had with her. So with this other teacher, who was a male teacher, somehow everything was more grounded. there was no big falling in love or something. He was just challenging me with transmitting his energy to me, and I had somehow to deal with it. And I felt I had to stand firmly on the ground in order not to be totally blasted or kind of totally shaken up by that energy. So I had to kind of learn to stand on my feet. So it was very good. But after 10 years doing this, still somehow the kind of link with Amma or that love, it is it was always there, and it had not lost its attraction in a way also. And somehow also I had the feeling I have to go to her and see her, and there has to happen something. The kind of the story with her is not finished.
Now, first, you are with yourself. Amma has been a great influence, and obviously that connection is still there, even when between for years you try to really push it away, it's still there. So you can't deny that. But at the same time, you can see Amma more as a beneficial influence in your life. And the other one you see also as a beneficial influence in your life. And you are mainly and now with yourself. So be with yourself as good as you can. Honestly, intensely, profoundly. And then from there you will feel what kind of practice will be helpful to go deeper, whether you should again start this practice or that practice. It's not that you have now to make in your mind a decision like a loyalty explanation that I'm either Ammas or I'm the other teachers, but you can accept, after all, the ultimate guru is your true self. It's here, it's now, it's divine. It has never been blemished. The external guru is a pointer that helps you to bring your attention back to yourself. And so it's not that you are now in a situation where you have to decide, should I now go this way or should I now go that way? But you can accept them both as beneficial influences in your life, but be here, be now with yourself. And from here, your further steps will start to come out spontaneously. I'm not going to tell you now, no, you should be with Amma or you should not be with Amma. But be with yourself and let from there truly express what comes from there.
Yeah, in a way, I know that also, but still there are some kind of deep feelings in some, yeah, maybe there's also some kind of childlike aspect, like, but I want to have a guru who tells me what to do. And not opposed to the ultimate guru is within. I have to learn to attune to that, and it's always with me, and it has always been there, and it just now the responsibility is on my side rather than expecting somebody else to guide me or to tune me. Yeah. Yeah.
But right, I know, Lutz, that you have that feeling periodically, but I want a guru who tells me what to do. But you know yourself good enough that after some time you can't stand it anymore. If the guru is there and tells you what to do, then it goes for some time, and then you can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, that's. I must
That-
admit, it is like that. Yeah.
Yes. So even if that emotional thing is there, but I want to hang on to a guru, then I mean you can open your heart, by all means open your heart towards Amma, and you can hang on, but at the same time it's time, because it's always that game that you hang on and then you get pissed again, and then you want to run away, and then you hang on again. So it's better that you centrally, basically accept, after all, the ultimate guru is yourself. And then you still can open your heart and get a lot of help and support. But it doesn't, for some devotees, this is the way it functions. They hang on to the guru and with the belief the guru is going to do the whole job. But still, their job is to keep on hanging on and hanging on and hanging on no matter what. And you know that you know perfectly well that you don't want to do that. hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, no matter what. So accept that the fact is, after all, it's not really ultimately an external guru who is going to do the job. The external guru helps us, the external guru sets up the situation, but ultimately it has to come out of our own self. The guru's help helps enormously. The guru's presence helps enormously, but still, ultimately, it comes out of our own self. I recommend it that you really open up to that as good as you can, and then you can still be connected. And when it's possible again to go and see Amma, go and see Amma. And when you go and want to stay with her for some time, go and stay with her for some time. But at the same time, be aware, okay, the help is there, but ultimately it's no God, no guru. That readiness to let go, that readiness to let go of all that is an obstacle has to come out of our own heart. And then in a way, it's a matter of grace. And that grace is there available, whether you have a guru or not.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hari Om.
Hari
Hari Om,
Om.
Lutz. Wish you well, Lutz. We have a little more time. Is there somebody else who would like to come in? Okay, then I just had a discussion with a friend about fear. That assume, basically we all want to go beyond our limitations. That's why we are on the spiritual path. Deep down, everybody knows that being in that little limited bubble, something much more could be there. This bubble is what creates all the pain, because consciousness is locked in it, and consciousness naturally is expansive. And I just discussed with somebody recently again about how frightening it can be to go beyond our limitations. That person told me had an experience where there was just infinity, and then there was suddenly a total terror. Okay. And it's bound to happen on a certain level. It's because that contradiction is there in the mind. It seems to be so difficult to go beyond that mental stuff. Because on one hand, we want to go beyond it. We know in order to find that fulfillment we are longing for, that is naturally there, that longing, because deep down we know it's already there and it could be so much different than being in that experience, me, a little person separate from the whole rest of existence. That longing to go beyond that is there, but then the habit of identifying with the person is so strongly there that as soon as we push a bit the limits, then the fear is bound to come. I didn't mean it like that. Previous, there was always that idea of getting enlightened, but then the idea is not really to let go of the identification with the person, but the idea is that me as a person should just get something more, something very valuable, something called enlightenment, that I'm having more of a treasure, more of a capital to work with, more powerful, and more wisdom, and having insight into more levels, and like that, but still that is me. The imagination is there. Even if we don't have clear pictures, it's bound to come. That longing for freedom is that me, I as a person want that freedom, being enlightened amongst all the unenlightened and all this stuff. But that identification with the me person has to go. And sometimes it's frightening. From the old status quo, from the old way the mind has been functioning, the reaction when sometimes we push a bit the limit, and there is a glimpse of limitlessness. There's a glimpse of eternity. There's a glimpse of something so much way beyond whatever personal experience we had, that there comes the fear and blocks us off again. And especially in the Western society, in the Western culture, we have been brought up, it was a lot of our bringing up and keeping in line was based on fear. Fear going to hell, fear doing something wrong, being punished. And somehow it's necessary that we confront with that fear. Sooner or later, we have to deal with that fear. It's nothing new, it comes again and again in the spiritual dialogues, in the satsangs, on the spiritual path. Fear pops up and seems to block us, and somehow we have to deal with it. On the intellectual level, we can accept, after all, this is our true nature. Nothing can be dangerous about it. But on the personal level, there comes, but, it's scary. Then, when that fear comes, don't fight against that fear. If we fight with that fear, then we are feeding it, and it's getting bigger, and it's getting bigger. And there it becomes real terror that can be very difficult to deal with. But if fear comes, fear of the unknown, fear of that, fear of just letting go to all that we are holding on to, with which we are defining ourselves. I'm like this, I'm like that, and fear of letting go of all that, because maybe after that there is simply nothing. And that fear comes, don't fight that fear. Just let it come. But try not to be afraid of that fear. Try not to be afraid of being afraid. Let that fear come, and accept it. And if you don't fight it, if you accept it, actually already you start to detach from that fear and you start to observe. You see what that fear is doing now. How that fear is manifesting now. What it is doing physically, what it is doing energetically, emotionally, intellectually, or how that follows what is happening on the physical, energetic level. And if we don't fight that fear, if we don't get sucked in and totally overwhelmed, but are capable of accepting it and observing it, then by not fighting it for a moment, it may seem it's getting stronger, but then actually, if we are not nurturing it with our image, with our energy, with our vital force that we are feeding it by fighting it or by being afraid of it. If you just accept that fear, then gradually it goes away and it's just an experience. It's just an emotion. Our mind is so contradictory that seems to make the spiritual path so difficult. I want to go beyond limitations and I don't want to give up limitations. And then there are the desires. I want this, I want that, I want this and that in my life. As I have said before to Klaus, as long as we are not obsessed with it, as long as we are not attached to it, those desires are not a problem. But if it becomes an obsession, if we hang on to it and think my well-being, my happiness is dependent on it, then this is an obstacle, and somehow I want to go beyond the obstacles, but I don't want to let go of the obstacles. Fear of missing out, fear of missing out something, then if I'm not more at least fulfilling my little desires, then what else is there in life? That fear and desires, they keep us back, and it's especially the fear. And again we may confront it on the way, and we have to deal with it, learn to deal with it, learn not to be afraid of being afraid, learn not to be afraid of the fear, accept that fear is just a reaction coming out of the person. It's an emotion that can in a moment become extremely strong, but if we learn to courageously confront the fear, accept the fear, and watch the fear, then actually it is melting away. That obstacle is disappearing and things start to become much easier and simpler. All right, let's stop the official satsang for today. I'm going to turn off the recording.